Hey guys, welcome to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney, and today I'm sharing with you my fall recommendations for books to read. I love the fall as a season. I would consider myself very connected to fall. I love the leaves changing. I love the coolness in the air. I love the cozy vibes of the fireplaces and fire pits, and so excited to be jumping into fall. And I have an October TBR plan that will be coming out soon, but I wanted to give some recommendations for books that are really great to read this time of the year, and they just give that cozy vibe. So stay tuned so you can see what books I have for you. I am separating them into different categories. I have cozy, I have middle grade, thriller, fantasy, and romance. So let's see what we've got. Okay, before we get started, if you have not been following my vlogs, you haven't met my new friend here. This is Mocha. He's hanging out in the background. He's found a zipper that he loves to play with that we're going to distract him from so that he doesn't break it any more than it already is, but he will be hanging out in the background when we go over these fall books. Alright, so the first category we're going to go into is the cozy category. When I think of cozy, I'm thinking like cozy mysteries. And there are so many great cozy mystery series, and generally what I found is most mystery series have a Halloween themed book or a fall themed book. So I'm just sharing a couple that were really good. So the first one, it just came out too, and it's kind of hard to find, but I did get it on Kindle. It's called Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. It says, when Jeannie's aunt gifts her the beloved Pumpkin Spice Cafe in the small town of Dream Harbor, Jeannie jumps at the chance for a fresh start away from her very dull desk job. Logan is a local farmer who avoids Dream Harbor's gossip at all costs. But Jeannie's arrival disrupts Logan's routine, and he wants nothing to do with the irritatingly upbeat new girl, except that he finds himself inexplicably drawn to her. Will Jeannie's happy-go-lucky attitude win over the grumpy but gorgeous Logan? Or has this city girl found the one person in town who won't fall for her charm or her pumpkin spice lattes? So it gives like grumpy sunshine. The cover is so cute. I love the cafe, the little cat coming out of the cafe. It's everything cozy wrapped up into one. And the little tagline says, "It's the season to fall in love." So I love that. Next up, I have the book The Spook in the Stacks by Eva Gates. This is a Lighthouse Library mystery, and I have read this. I read it last year. I gave it 4 stars. I love those Lighthouse mystery books because there's a library in a lighthouse. You cannot beat it. It says, Halloween in North Carolina's Outer Banks becomes seriously tricky when librarian Lucy Richardson stumbles across something extra unusual in the rare books section, a dead body. How can you not love that? I'm going to leave it there because you know how when you read the synopsis on a cozy mystery ends up telling you everything about the cozy mystery. It's like, no, I don't need to know that much. I'm gonna leave it there. The cover is adorable. Look at that adorable cat. I forgot the cat's name. And he's reading Sleepy Hollow because there is connection with the Headless Horseman with this, but it just gives off fall vibes. So cozy. Next up is Pumpkin Pies and Potions by Polly Holmes. I've never read anything by Polly Holmes. This is a Melting Pot Cafe paranormal cozy mystery #1. It's actually on Kindle Unlimited right now, and I loved this cover. So I actually picked this up like July and have just been holding it on Kindle Unlimited waiting for October. So it says, Witches, Cats, Pumpkin Pies, and Murder. I'm Evelyn Grayson, and if you told me by the time I was 23 I'd have lost both my parents in a mysterious accident, moved in with the coolest aunt ever, lived in a magical town, and I was a witch, I would have said you were crazy. Funny thing is, you'd be right. Camille Stinson, the grumpiest woman in Saltwater Cove, is set on making this year's Halloween celebrations difficult for everyone. But when she turns up dead, and my best friend is on the suspect list, I have no choice but to find out who done it and clear her name. Oh, I love that. It's kind of cool too that you have like a younger main character who is trying to figure out the mystery. But the cover is so cute to me. The thing that stood out to me was like the witch's outfit, the cauldron bubbling, the cat in the window. It just, the colors, everything about it screams Halloween and fall. Next up, Witch Upon a Star by Angela M. Sanders. This is part of a series. I feel like I read this one, or maybe this is the newest one, but it says Josie is eager to show off Wilfred's delights to her visiting sister Jean, even though Josie might conceal her magic from her. In any case, Jean is excited to attend Cookie Masterson's trademark Ready, Set, Go workshop on becoming a life coach. Then there's the grand opening of Darla's Cafe, where the doors are thrown open to reveal a dead man stabbed in the back. That was definitely not on the menu. So that sounds really good. And I love the cat on this one. So those are all of the cozy mysteries that I have tagged. There's so many cozy mysteries. If you're in the cozy mystery reading bunch, you know there's so many. And I barely scratched the surface. These are just ones that I think would be great for the fall. And so next, let's go to the middle grade category. I have loved middle grade books for as long as I can remember, and I have read them sometimes in secret, but now I'm so excited to scream from the rooftop that read middle grade, get into it, read whatever you want. And so I have quite a few middle grade books that I think are great for the fall. The first is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. If you haven't read this book, I'm not going to come for you. I'm going to say this series is the best to read in cozy months. I read it over the summer and I loved it too when I first read it, but I think this is so good, and you're never too old or young to read Harry Potter. I read it when I was in my 30s, and it was just such a compelling story for me, and I've connected with it. My whole channel is named after it. Like, I became obsessed, and I'm not mad about it. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is what you see here. What a great magical kickoff. Even if you watch the movies, like watching them in fall just hits different. And so I highly, highly, highly recommend this series. And if you have kids, a great series to read with your kids. Next up, any of the Babysitters Club mysteries. I have here Mystery 11, Claudia and the Mystery at the Museum. But if you've been following my channel, you know that I'm rereading the Babysitters Club from the beginning in publication order. I'm on Super Special number 1 because I've read the first 12 books in the series. And the mysteries are a great, low stakes, non-scary way to engage in some Halloween sort of fall vibes. And they have really cute ones. And so this one particularly says, while visiting Stony Brook's new museum, Claudia is horrified to learn that someone has stolen some priceless coins and replaced them with forgeries. So a little bit of mystery, a little bit of mischief. They're really cute and I highly recommend. Next up is Skritch Scratch by Lindsay Curry. I have another Lindsay Curry book after this one as well because she is a really great writer. Her books are similar, and so if you're only going to read one, I say Skritch Scratch is the way to go. She has a new one coming out that I'll talk about next. But Skritch Scratch says, Claire has absolutely no interest in the paranormal. She's a scientist, which is why she can't think of anything worse than having to help out her dad on one of his ghost-themed Chicago bus tours. She thinks she's made it through when she sees a boy with a sad face and dark eyes at the back of the bus. There's something off about his presence, especially because when he checks at the end of the tour, or when she checks at the end of the tour, he's gone. Claire tries to brush it off. She must be imagining things, letting her dad's ghost stories get the best of her. But then the scratching starts. Voices whisper to her in the dark. The number 396 appears everywhere she turns, and the boy with the dark eyes starts following her. Claire is being haunted. The boy from the bus wants something, and Claire needs to find out what before it's too late. Even that description is spooky. This book is eerie, and I find that Lindsay Curry's writing is a bit eerie. It's not like gory or like jump scare. It's just eerie. It's like, oh, that's a little odd. I listened to this on audio, which I also highly recommend if you can borrow the audio because it's really great on audio. I don't remember who the narrator was, but she was on point. Next, we have the book It Found Us, also by Lindsay Curry. This book just came out. I pre-ordered it, and I think it pops on my Kindle sometime in August. And it says, from the author of Skritch Scratch and The Girl in White comes a new spooky mystery about a girl detective who must decode a series of ominous clues tied to a century-old tragedy to find a missing teenager before it's too late. 12-year-old Hazel Woods has always had an unusual knack for sleuthing. Some may call it snooping, but all she really wants is to solve mysteries around town. So, when she not so accidentally overhears her brother Den planning to sneak into the cemetery at night for an epic game of hide and seek, she decides to secretly tag along. This seems like the perfect opportunity to investigate the claims that the cemetery is haunted. Okay, so very good. Again, Lindsay Curry has similar themes. They all sit with paranormal ghosts, hauntings, and they're usually set in Chicago or in Illinois in general. So very excited about that one as well. Next up, I'm recommending A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I put this in the middle grade, but it's really more like YA, just be aware. And so I just finished book 1 and 2 of this for the past couple of months. I'm looking to read book 3. It was on my list this month. It's not going to happen, but maybe next month. It says the case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh. The police know he did it. Everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitz-Amobi isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for her final project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer's out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? I thought book 1 of this series was the best. Book 2 is similar to book 1, and book 3, I'm only about 60 pages in, so I don't know. But A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was hard to put down. It was so easy to read. And it really did keep you on the edge of your seat, so highly recommend. It gives that fall vibe. And then the last book I have in this middle grade series is a book I haven't read but I picked up. It's called Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. It says every year in the magical town of Ravenskill, witchlings who participate in the Black Moon ceremony are placed into covens and come into their powers as full-fledged witches. And 12-year-old Seven Salazar can't wait to be placed in the most powerful coven with her best friend. But on the night of the ceremony, in front of the entire town, she isn't placed in one of the 5 covens. She's a spare. So I love that concept. It kind of feels Harry Potter-ish with the school vibe. But I know there's like some competition that goes along with trying to figure out like where all the spares will go. And so really excited about that. And that cover is so cute. You can see like she's got 2 sidekicks, maybe one girl that's not so nice, or I don't know, she's just a little bit more sassy. You have the cat in the background, so it's so cool. Side note, I'm reading all of these on my screen the way you're watching them on the screen. Alright, so next up is the thriller section. I'm recently getting into thrillers. I don't have anything against them, I just hadn't ever really picked them up. And so I'm trying to expand my range of books that I'm reading. And what I found, especially through Book of the Month Club, which I love, is that when they don't have a romance that I like, I tend to go to the thrillers, and that has really expanded my ability to read thrillers. And so here are some ones that I am recommending to you. So the first one is, and it says, celebrating her 45th birthday at her local pub, popular podcaster Alex Summers crosses paths with an unassuming woman called Josie Fair. Josie, it turns out, is also celebrating her 45th birthday. They are, in fact, birthday twins. A few days later, Alex and Josie bump into each other again, this time outside Alex's children's school. Josie has been listening to Alex's podcast and thinks she might be an interesting subject for her series. She is, she tells Alex, on the cusp of great changes in her life. So I've heard nothing but great things about this book and like everybody wanting to read it. I got it from Book of the Month Club, and I definitely want to read it next month. It looks really good. Okay, next up is the book She Started It. I read this book by Sion Gilbert. I believe I gave it 4 or maybe 4 stars or 5 stars. And this story follows some high school friends who are invited to an old high school enemies like bachelorette party. And it's on a remote island, and they're all pretty skeptical, but the frenemy, Poppy, has invited them, paid for them, has it all set up for them, right? So they go to the island, and people start dying, and so they're having to get off. There's a little bit of cattiness that happens, there's some arguments, there's some drama, and then like everybody's trying to survive and get off of the island. So it was very good. I remember some things were unrealistic, like when they got to the island, they immediately had to give up their phones, even though they were miles away from anybody being able to help them. And that doesn't sound realistic for me, because if you told me that, I'd be out. So, but still a really good book, also from Book of the Month Club. Next up, I have The Family Game, and that is by Catherine Steedman. I also picked this up from Book of the Month Club on a month that there was not a good choice that I liked. And this book follows a man and his wife who go to their family's house, and they all play this game. They go every year. It's a really rich family, and this year they go and people start dying, and they have to sort of like, it's like a twisted game of hide and seek of trying to find out who did it and stay alive at the same time. So really great book. I think I give that one 5 stars, actually, maybe 4. But that was another really good one and worth the read. All right, the last book I have in the thriller section is, of course, from Book of the Month Club. And this one's called The Writing Retreat. It's by Julia Bartz. I ate this book up. I read it within a day. And this book follows 5 attendees who are going to a month-long retreat to a famous author's house. When they get there, they realize they are going to be writing a novel from scratch. They have a set limit they have to write each day, and they will have one-on-one time with this famous author to critique their writing. And then women just start to die. Common theme. And so the ones that are left find out a secret, and they can't know this secret, and so then they start trying to escape. So this one was for sure a 5-star for me. It was really well written, and just a great story. And I found that I have a like for books that include people being writers, and the drama that happens with writing. It sounds like a really grimy industry at times, and so this is a great book. Next up, we're going to enter the fantasy section. There is something about fantasy books in the fall that just feel right. It turned September and I was like, give me all the fantasy. Now, have I finished any? No, but I want them in my hand. I want to be cozy. I want to be in a different land. And so I want to share with you some of my fantasy recommendations. First, let's just knock out ACOTAR from the beginning. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas is what's on your screen. But this entire series, besides A Court of Silver Flames, is really, really good. It is intriguing. It is a fantasy romance. It is steamy. And it all starts with this book. It says, when a 19-year-old huntress, Feyre, kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, she discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. And it kind of goes from there. You might not get through the whole series in a month, but maybe during the fall season you can. Definitely worth it. And I've tried other series from Sarah J. Maas, and at this point this is my favorite one, and I'm okay with that. Next up, I have The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I've had this on my shelf for a while. I have not read it yet, but I've been wanting to read it for cozy season. It says, Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, despite her mortality. But many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Cardan, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. So apparently, I'm feeling enemies to lovers. I think this is YA. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is a little bit of an easier fantasy book to get through. If fantasy is not your genre, picking fantasy books that are not so world building and political really helps you get through them. So I am looking forward to reading this one. Next up, I have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I am trying to get through this. I will tell you right now, the way it's written is a little bit different, and so I'm trying to be patient. But it says, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again. But 18-year-old Iris Widow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction, and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. So, a really great story. It sounds great. I haven't gotten to those good parts yet, but reading that synopsis again just feels like a cozy, romantic fantasy read that is totally worth it. Next up is The Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I've had this on my TBR for a hot minute. I originally got it as a Kindle download like 3 years ago. Never touched it. Heard about it, got it from the library, never touched it, and decided I wanted to own the actual physical copy since I was going to wait to read it until fall time. So this says, a richly inventive novel about a centuries-old vampire, a spellbound witch, and the mysterious manuscript that draws them together. Deep in the stacks of Oxford's Bodleian Library, young scholar Diana Bishop unwittingly calls up a bewitched alchemical manuscript in the course of her research. Descended from an old and distinguished line of witches, Diana wants nothing to do with sorcery, so after a furtive glance and a few notes, she banishes the book to the stacks. but her discovery sets a fantastical underworld stirring, and a horde of demons, witches, and vampires soon descends upon the library. Diana has stumbled upon a coveted treasure lost for centuries, and she's the only creature who can break the spell. That sounds amazing to me, and it's my inkling that there's a little bit of romance in there because I heard that, and so that one sounds really good. And then the last book I have in the fantasy category is kind of cozy fantasy. I tried to read this book in the summer or late spring and it just felt too cozy for the moment, so I didn't. This is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. It says, after a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. The battle-weary orc aims to start fresh, opening the first ever coffee shop in the city of Thune. But old and new rivals stand in the way of success, not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is, which is such a funny concept. If Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her plans a reality, she won't be able to go it alone. But the true rewards of the uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way, and whether drawn together by ancient magic, flaky pastry, or a refreshingly brewed cup, they may become partners, family, and something deeper than she ever could have dreamed. That is so good. It started off really good. There's nothing wrong with the book. I just paused it because you could tell it was cozy. But the comical side of this, where nobody knows what coffee is elite. Highly recommend this. And then we also know in November there's a prequel to this book coming out, so I'm excited about that as well. The last category I have for you today is the romance category, and guys, I literally had so many on this list I had to cut it down, so stay tuned for my October TBR so you can see all of the books that I plan to read. So when I share my October TBR, be prepared for all of the witchy romance books, but I just put a few here as my recommendations. First off, I have Enchanted to Meet You by Meg Cabot. This is pretty new. It says, it's magic when you meet your match in her teenage years. Lovelorn Jessica Gold cast a spell that went disastrously wrong and brought her all the wrong kind of attention, as well as a lifetime ban from the World Council of Witches. So no one is more surprised than Jess when 15 years later, tall, handsome WCW member Derek Winters shows up in her quaint little village of West Harbor and claims that Jess is the chosen one. It's so cute. The cover is amazing. It just gives fall witchy vibes. So excited to read this one. I have this one on my Kindle and I can't wait to dig in. It's been taunting me. I've been looking at it for a hot minute and I can't wait to start it, but I'm saving it for October. The next book I saw it and I also picked it up on Kindle. It's The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brienne Randall. It says, Sadie Vivarle has always believed that the curse of 4 heartbreaks that accompanies her magic would be worth the price. When her grandmother's diagnosed with cancer with only weeks to live and her first heartbreak, Jake McNeely, returns to town after a decade, her carefully structured life begins to unravel. So definitely some sadness in this one, but a magic side as well. So excited to read that one. Next up is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I read this in 2020. I think I gave it like 2 stars, and then I read it again last year in preparation to read The Kiss Curse and ended up giving it 4 stars. So I actually really liked it the second time I read it. It says, 9 years ago, Vivian Jones nursed her broken heart like any young witch would. Vodka, weepy music, bubble baths, and a curse on the horrible boyfriend. Sure, Vivi knows she shouldn't use her magic this way, but with only an Orchard Hayride scented candle on hand, she isn't worried it will cause him anything more than a bad hair day or 2. That is until Reese Penhallow, descendant of the town's ancestors, breaker of hearts, and annoyingly just as gorgeous as he always was, returns to Graves Glen, Georgia. What should be a quick trip to recharge the town's ley lines and make an appearance at the annual fall festival turns disastrously wrong. With only calamity after another striking Reese, Vivi realizes her silly little ex-hex may not have been so harmless after all. This is so good. It's a second chance sort of romance, and I really, really liked it. Highly recommend. I don't have enough to say about it. Really good. Next up is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I think I gave this one 3 stars, and it is a follow-up to The Ex-Hex, so it happens in the same universe. And it says, welcome to spooky season. The follow-up to Erin Sterling's New York Times bestselling hit, The Ex-Hex, features fan favorite Gwen and spine-tinglingly handsome Wells Penhallow as they battle a new band of witches in their own magical chemistry. I just love that. I believe this one's sort of enemies to lovers. The first one is 2, but second chance, and this one is so good. I actually like Kiss Curse better than The Ex-Hex, I believe. It's been a while. Next up, I have Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare. I'm really excited to read this book. It says, when Reggie Johnson answers a job ad in the paper, she's astonished to find that she's not applying to work at her favorite card game, Spellcraft, the Magic King. Instead, she's applying to be an actual familiar for an actual witch, as in real magic. The new job has a few perks, great room and board, excellent pay, and she's apprenticing to a powerful witch. Sure, the witch is a bit eccentric, and sure, there was that issue with the black cat Reggie would prefer to forget about. The biggest problem, however, is Warlock Ben Magnus, her employer's nephew, and the most arrogant, insufferable, maddening man to ever cast a spell. Oh my gosh, and that cover is so cute. You just know they're going to have the perfect romance, and that looks great as well. Okay, I have two more books that I want to share with you. The first one is Not Your Ex's Hexes by April Asher. This is part of a series. And it says, for her entire life, Rose Maxwell trained to become the next prima on the Supernatural Council. Now that she's stepped down, it's time for this witch to focus on herself and not think about her impulsive one-night stand with Damian Adams, a half-demon veterinarian who she can't get out of her head. But when Rose is sentenced to community service at Damian's animal sanctuary, it becomes impossible for them to ignore their sparking attraction. A friends with benefits, no feelings, no strings arrangement works perfectly for both of them. Okay, but does it? Because we know how that might turn out. Super cute cover. I love all the pink in the cover. The other book, what was it called? I forgot. But another great book by April Asher, and it's a series, so looking forward to that. And my last recommendation for romance books is Boss Witch by Anne Aguirre. And this is also part of a series. This is the second book. The first book was Witch Please, and then Boss Witch. And it says, Clementine Waterhouse is a perfectly logical witch. She doesn't tumble headlong into love. Rather, she weighs the pros and cons and decides if a relationship is worth pursuing. At least that's always been her modus operandi before. Clem prefers being the one in charge, always the first to walk away when the time is right. Attraction has never struck her like lightning. So those are my fall book recommendations. There's quite a few. I think fall is a great time to stay indoors, pick up some reading, and check out some new genres. I think the genres I've picked out are great places to start, but would love to hear below what you've read or what you plan to read, and if you do something special for the fall reading season. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not sure about subscribing, check out my other content. I do videos on Thursdays and Sundays. Thursdays usually some type of bookish video. Sunday is always my weekly reading vlog. Would love to have you here if you are interested in being a part of the community. Anyways, we will see you in the next one. Bye guys.